Good morning, everyone. I'll be the third person to say good morning to you. As Rob said, I have the responsibility for running software and services at Pace, which is an interesting challenge, not least of all because when you run software services in a call center business at a company that's known for doing hardware, every time you stand up, people expect you to start talking about set-top boxes and gateways. I'm not going to do that. For the next 20 minutes, I'm going to be focusing on software, systems, a little bit on what's happening in the marketplace, a little bit how I think that's going to impact you, the operators, and us, the vendor community, and then be slightly bold, I think, by saying if I was an operator, what I would be asking for from the vendor community. Hopefully there'll be some time for questions at the end, so please feel free to ask questions. So as Rob mentioned, there's a lot of change going on in the marketplace. However, when you look at the numbers and when you look at what's actually happening, linear TV is still incredibly strong. So we who work in this industry think that everyone goes home and everyone consumes content on their iPad, consumes content on the road. But the reality is that most people in the Western world are still consuming content in the traditional way on the big screen TV in the sitting room. The reality is that there is more television content being consumed in the West, and that's because we as a community are giving viewers more options to consume that content. And this again is probably not news to you guys, but the cost for delivering those TV services continues to go up. So content costs are increasing faster than TV revenues, which is obviously putting pressures on margins. But equally, as you look at some of the changes in viewing habits, which I'll talk about in a minute, that's driving additional complexity, that's driving additional cost. The other interesting thing that's going on is if you look at a lot of the technology changes, a lot of the broadband technology changes, for example, that is being driven by the desire for more content and more TV. So if you think about laying additional fiber, if you think about faster chips, thinking about smaller set-top boxes, more transcoding, DRM in the home, all of these technology changes are actually being driven by the consumer's need and desire to watch more content in more different ways. So back to the point that Rob just made, the interesting thing is even though linear TV viewing is going up, total TV viewing is going up, there is a change. There is a change going on. It's a change that we're all very close to and aware of. Media meshing is common in the home right now. Media meshing being engaging with companion content as you watch content on a different screen. Media stacking is very, very common. That's basically multitasking, engaging with multiple pieces of media at the same time. People are watching content on their iPads. Interestingly, they seem to be doing it in the home, and interestingly, more than half of that appears to be linear content. People are engaging with content outside of the home, and not surprisingly, that tends to be on the mobile devices. When you start to get underneath these numbers, what's actually quite interesting is the iPad viewing is being driven by the millennial generation. And it's not necessarily because they want to consume content on their iPad, it's because that's the environment they have control of. Their parents still control the main living room TV. And so when we look at that and we think about the future of TV, our belief is that as these millennials grow up, leave home, and have their own TVs, they will continue to engage in the same way that their parents are today, i.e. main TV viewing, while engaging with companion devices to enrich that experience. And this is an incredible, I think, opportunity for the operator community. You have obviously control of the linear content going into the home, and as this change is occurring, you have the ability to drive compelling new integrated services into the home and into the subscribers. When we think about, from a customer standpoint, from a viewer standpoint, again, none of this I think is rocket science, but worth stating. When we think about what the viewers are asking for, they want to basically consume what they want to consume, when they want to consume it, how they want to consume it. They want it to be personalized. They want it to be easy to find. They want the user experience to be consistent. They want it to be easy to consume. And as you'll see as I talk through this presentation, there's going to be a big focus on usability. And usability is not about necessarily UI, but it's about install, it's about support, it's about integration of services, it's about consistency so that customers don't need training. The other thing that I think is going to be critical as we move forward is that the support experience needs to be tremendous. As you roll out more complex services across multiple devices, many of which you don't control and don't own, if you continue to support those services in the way that you support your customers today, your support costs are going to go through the roof, and the economics are just going to get upside down very, very quickly. And obviously, if you do all of these things, then what happens is your Net Promoter Score goes through the roof, and that's a result that a lot of you are driving for, and we see a lot of our customers today are measuring the success of their service on Net Promoter Score as well as revenue and margin. From an operator standpoint, I think there's another interesting challenge here, and it's really about rate of change. So if you think about the fact that the iPad is I think it's a month under 4 years old. It was released in April 2010. And now think about the fact that 25% of British homes have an iPad as of the end of last year. And then think about the number of generations of iPads that have hit the market, and the devices that are similar to iPads. Think about the number of software updates. And the reality is that the world that we live in today and the world that we're going to play in tomorrow from a TV delivery standpoint is going to evolve very, very, very rapidly. And I see that from a system standpoint, from a software standpoint, as a big challenge, because we are good at building monolithic systems with lots and lots of integrations that change very slowly, and we're very good at controlling that environment. But that's not the environment that we're in today, and it's not the environment we're going to be in tomorrow if we're going to continue to deliver cutting-edge services to our customer base. And then customer support. So the thing that amazes me all the time about customer support is today, and part of Pace, by the way, I have 2 call centers in my business, so I live this every day. But today it amazes me that our customers call us to tell us they have a problem with our service. Right? It's just completely backwards. Right? We should know when there's a problem with our service. We should be able to support, monitor, maintain, and manage that. When a customer calls customer service, it should be value additive rather than the customer calling up and being taken through 15 steps, all of which involve giving me information about my service. Right? It's completely backwards today. And from a cost standpoint, again, as you increase the complexity and the number of devices across which and the environments across which you offer these services, the cost of customer support is just going to blow all these other numbers away. So how do we get to a point where the users get what they want, the operators can react in a way that they want to react, and customer support is something that's positive? So firstly, I'd say, and again, this is probably not terribly surprising, focus on usability. We inside Pace, for example, are engaging with types of people we've never engaged with before. We're talking to creative directors at ad agencies, and if you think about Pace, a legacy set-top box company, you wouldn't think of that would be something we would do. But usability is not just about UI; it's about installation. The reason that the Chromecast, I think, is so interesting to everyone is because you look at it and in your mind you go, wow, that's really easy to install. I have a new service to deliver, I plug it in and off I go. Right? The Chromecast is interesting because of usability. Support is part of usability. Integration, how does this integrate with all of the other services that you offer and others offer? The second thing is we should be building self-diagnosing, self-managing, self-monitoring systems. If you go through almost any RFP for a new piece of hardware, a new software system, there's maybe a line or 2 about support. Support is usually something that's thought about as a second-class feature. And what we're doing inside our company, and I would challenge the rest of us to do this as well, is making support part of the original design of any system and any product we put in the marketplace. It's something that's very, very difficult to add after the fact, and can be something that's relatively straightforward to add if you think about it right from the start. The second thing is about pre-integration. So one of the statements I made a few minutes ago was the fact that we're very good at building monolithic systems that are slow to update, and that's clearly not going to work. However, one of the other things that we see in the marketplace is there's a lot of SI done to integrate commodity components. So, for example, we do a lot of work integrating CA with set-top boxes. Right, that's something that I would argue as an operator community you should be demanding as something that comes pre-integrated. You should be paying SI companies, like us and other other companies in the marketplace. You should be paying us to do high-value system integration of custom components, not taking a set of commodities and putting them together. But equally, the systems that we pre-integrate, you have to be able to pull them apart. If you're going to continue to evolve and adapt and iterate, you can't have us turn up or any other vendor turn up and say, this is the end-to-end solution. And it's not something that you can pull apart. We need to get very, very comfortable working with our competitors to deliver you a solution, and understand that sometimes we're going to own a big piece of the pie and sometimes we're going to own a small piece of the pie, and we need to design our systems, and quite honestly, you need to demand that we design our systems in a way that you do have flexibility and you can pull us apart and they will interoperate with each other. That's what's going to give you the flexibility and the control and the ability to adapt at the rate that you're going to need to adapt at. And that's a pretty, in the vendor community, the concept of co-opetition is a pretty big change for us. We're very, very comfortable, competing with our competitors and talking about killing them. And we need to get to a point where we're comfortable working with them in one account and then competing with them in the next account. And then, again, this is probably blindingly obvious to everyone here, but we need to continue to push things to the cloud. If you're thinking again about delivering services across multiple different environments, the only way in the long term that you realize that and you retain a level of control of that is by pushing the logic, the thinking, the control out to the cloud. And that's what's going to give you the control. That's what's going to enable you to link very, very disparate systems together in a consistent way. So from a opportunity standpoint, I think the operators have, all of the operators have a unique opportunity. So you have strong relationships with your customers, you have lots of resources, you have a strong brand name, and you have a stable platform to start from. Equally, lots of you don't have large legacy TV problems to deal with, and so you're able to make you're in a position to make forward-looking decisions. If I was sitting where you were sitting, what would I be demanding from the vendor community? Pre-integration would be the first part. I would say, why am I paying lots of SI for you to integrate things which are commoditizing or quickly commoditizing? I would definitely push the adoption and the use of standards, because ultimately that's going to give you protection as and when and if you want to make changes to components or parts of those systems. Pluggable, obviously, is part of that as well. You need to be able to, for example, change out your CA vendor, change out parts of your middleware stack. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult to remain competitive. Self-management. Every single RFP, I would be building monitoring, healing, self-management into every single one of those RFPs, and I'd be designing the systems from the ground up to work like that. Because otherwise, as the complexity goes up, the support costs or the user experience, the lack of user experience will end up killing you. I'd be maniacal about usability, everything from performance to install to support, everywhere, all the way through the value chain, all the way through the service life cycle. And I would challenge internally. I would challenge my support organizations or my support vendors. I would challenge them to change how they're doing support. It's ridiculous to me that the way that a customer gets support on an over-the-top service is to pick up the phone. right? That doesn't make any sense to me at all. You've got communities out there already. You've got chat systems, knowledge bases. There are many different ways of doing this, which are much cheaper and much more effective. And then finally, I would build a system. I would challenge my internal teams to build a system that thinks about rate of change as a core feature and a core KPI. And one of the KPIs I would have for any new system that you put in place is how quickly can we reliably update that system and make changes, because the environment is going to continue to change at an incredible rate, and you have to be able to react to that. And the 1 or 2 releases a year on a legacy system just isn't going to work.